Now we will learn about array destructuring. So in object destructuring, what we do is we destructure by name of the property. So if the profile is the object, it has age property, age and address property, which we destructure by name. In case of array destructuring, we destructure by the index or position of those elements. So let's say I have numbers array 10, 20, 30, and I want to access elements of this array. So normally what we do is we will create variables numbers of 0. This is ES5 code. Second one, third. Now I can print this. First, second, third. Now you can see first is 10, second is 20, and third is 30, which is coming correctly. So instead of writing this much code, what we can do is we can use array destructuring. So for that, now we can use array symbol and name of the array variable. So here we destructure by the index. So 0th element is at position, 0th element is 10. So we can give some name. Let's say first. Second element we can give second name. For third element we give some name. So we destructure by the index. So 0th element will always go inside the first variable. So you can see you get the exact same result. Now if I don't want third variable, like I want to get only first two values, so you can remove this third destructure, and let me remove this also. Now you have, this will have value 10 and this will have value 20. You can see you correctly get that data. So if I want, so let's say I don't want second element, I want just third element, so first and third. So in that case you can add a comma here in between to skip the element. So now this will be the first, so first will be 10, second element 20 will be skipped, and this will have value of third element. So second is not the correct word now, but if you print you can see second is actually 30. So instead of second, let's say third. So when you add a comma, that particular index element will be skipped. So if I don't want first two element, I can add two commas here and you get direct third element. So now let me remove this first. Now you can see third is 30. So this is, you can destructure array. So you might have seen this in a React. Whenever we use state hook, you do it like this. So let's say counter, set counter, and its initial value of 0. So this use state hook returns an array, and these array elements are right, we are destructuring. So the first element, so this will be like array, and we get first element equal to array of 0, second element equal to array of 1. So this is what you get. The first element will always contain the initial value or the current value which we have passed, and second element will contain the function that we can use to change that value. Instead of writing in two separate lines, we can use a single line here. So I can directly say counter and set counter. You can give any name you want. So that's just to identify what you are storing. So the advantage of using array destructuring is you can identify what it is. So when I say first, second, even no matter how much bigger file you have, you can identify what is first or what is second number. So I can give it name second number, so you know that it's a second number. By just saying accessing numbers of 0, you will not be able to identify what it is. So if you have very large file and you are accessing number of 0, it's not clear what's number of 0. So instead of that, if you give some clear name like this counter, it's clear that it's a counter. So no matter how much bigger file size, you can easily identify that it's a counter. So you don't have to use this syntax 0 1. So by just saying numbers of 1, I cannot identify what is numbers of 1. Now that's the advantage of using array destructuring. So in object destructuring, we destructure these properties by their name. So address, age, by their name. You can see by their name, city and state, by properties. But in case of array destructuring, we destructure by the index. So here we have seen, like, let's say I just want second element. This will not give you, so this will not give you second element. This is actually zeroth element because the destructuring happens by index. So first element of that array will always come here, then you have second element, so we can call it first and this is second. So I can print in any order because this is an object. You can say second is 20, first is 10, which is correct. But if I remove this and just print this, this is not second element. By the name you are giving second is wrong. So it's actually first element because index starts with 0. Zeroth element always comes first. What we have seen is if we have multiple elements, you want to access next element, we have to add this comma. So let's say third. So here when I say third, now I am having two commas, so I have skipped first two elements. So now third will be 30, but this does not look. So instead of this there is another syntax. So instead of using array syntax, you can use object syntax and provide the index which you want to access. So let's say I want to access this element, so this is at position 1 when index starts with 0. So 0 1, so I can specify 1 and now I can give any name. So I can say second. Now second will be 20. So when I say 0, 0 is 10, so you will get 10. So that's how you can easily access without need of adding those extra commas. I can say 3, which is third. We get third as undefined because there is no third element. So 0, 1, 2 and there is no third element, so you will get undefined. So when you are destructuring, it might happen that that particular index does not exist, so you will get undefined. So when I say 2, you will get third element which is 30. So if you are doing normal destructuring, first, second, third, fourth, so now we have only 3 elements and you are destructuring 4 elements. So that is fine, that is not an issue. So when I print this first, second, third, and if I print fourth, fourth will be undefined because there is no fourth element. You can see now fourth is undefined, but you are able to destructure first 3 elements. So this is array destructuring, very useful thing. Now let's say I have users array. Each array is an object. Let's say Mike age. I have another user Jerry 35. So now I want to use destructuring. So what I can say get users or display users. Function display users. For this function, I will pass that array users. So I want to access those elements. So what you can do is this users which you are getting, you can destructure it. So if I want to access the first user, what you can say is use array destructuring, use the users. Now here index starts with 0, so this will be the 0th element. So when I say first user, you can give any name but give meaningful name. So this will be first user and I can say second user. First user, second user. Now you can see first user is this name Mike age 30 and second user is Jerry age 35. You correctly get that data. Now let's say I want name property. So this is an object. So this is an array. First is a object. So from that object I want name properties which we have already seen. So here we can use destructuring. Again I will use object destructuring here and I can just get that name printed. So this will be the first user's name, Mike. You can see. Now for this, here outside you are using array destructuring. So this is the second element. So second element is this. So for that, from that, this is an object. Now I want to use object destructuring to get that particular name. So I can use object syntax and I will get name. So now you can see you have two variables with same name. So because we are creating using object destructuring, you have two variables with same name, which you cannot do. So you can see you are getting error, cannot redeclare block scope variable name. So what you can do is, as you know, in object destructuring, we can rename this. So I can say second user. When I print, you can see first user is Mike, second user is Jerry. You correctly get that data. So if I want age also, I can get this age and I can print that age. So now this age is for second user. So you will get 35. You can see. So this is how you can easily use object destructuring to get that any part of the particular element. Now let's say I have another countries object and it has, let's say, user countries. Here I will say countries. Now let's say USA, India. Now I want to get the second element of that array, countries array. So now this is an object. So with object destructuring, user countries, the first element. So this is an object. So we use name of that property to identify or get values of that. Now this countries you will get. So let me print countries. You can see you get that array. Now I want the second element. So let's say India. So you can destructure on separate line equal to countries. And second element, so you can say comma and second country. Countries and second country. Countries is an array and second country is India. You correctly get it. So instead of this, now you can also use object syntax. So just specify the index. So instead of adding comma, you can just say one colon second country. So this is also array destructuring, but you are destructuring by the index. So you can see you correctly get second country India. Instead of writing on the separate line, you can do it on the same line also. So in here countries, I can declare an array. Let me comment this out, and here you can say add comma and then I can say second country. Countries is not defined. Yeah, not defined. So you can see second country India is coming. So you can use destructuring like this, nested destructuring. Instead of writing on separate line, you can do this. So now comma is needed because if I don't want the first element, I want the second element. If I remove this, now this second country will be USA. So you get that USA. So here also I can use object syntax. So let's say I want Japan. So it's a second element, 0, 1, 2. So I can say third country. You can see you correctly get Japan. So you can use this array destructuring in different way. Either most of the time you will be using this array syntax, but if you want to directly access in between element, you use this object syntax by just specifying the index and give some name so you can identify that. Just by giving two, you will not get anything. Like this is the wrong syntax. So you need to give some name which you can access that. Now let's say I have another user values. It's an array of array. So let's say this will be the name. So Mike, his country, let's say Japan, and its age 40. Say Jerry, here it will be India, it will be 40, 54. Now I want to access these elements. So I want that array of objects to look like this. So this will be an array. Here it will be name Mike, country Japan, and age 40. Similarly, it will be Jerry, country India, 50. So this is the final output I want. I have this input array. So how can you do that? So for that we can write a function get converted data, and for this we'll pass this data get converted data user value. Now what I can do, I want to print that, like loop through that particular array and print in this particular format. So we can use, let's call it users, or let's keep it data, the data dot map method. So for this individual map method element, I will get this particular individual elements. So this will be like user, and I will return that user as it is, and we can see what it prints. As you can see, you get exact same data because we have not changed anything. So now what we can do is, now this is the entire array, we are using array map method, so you will get individual element. So this individual element, for that I can use array destructuring. So I can say first, or I can say name, it will be country and age. So now if I print this, we return just print name, country and age. As you can see, you correctly get those users printed with name, country and age. Now I want this to be the final array. So what this map method returns an array. So what you can do, you can return this thing as an object. Remove this. You can see you get an array with name, country, name my country Japan and age 40. So you can simplify this. So this is same as writing name colon name, country colon country, and age colon age. So this is exactly same. So now the key and the variable holding that value are same. We can skip this. So we can simplify this. So it's a lot simpler now. You can see you get correctly expected data you get. So what we are doing here, you will get individual user, and we are using destructure. This is exactly same. You can see you get exact same result. So instead of using separate variable, separate line of code, we can destructure inline here. So we are returning an object. We want this to be individual object. So that's why we are returning an object with each individual property.